For the Mayas, the structure of the world. We are living in the living plane that it's the earth.
That they got to keep balance, maybe by making offerings and rituals.
And stopped. This all happened about the time of Christ or shortly after, about 150 AD. And they left and walked away and never returned. The building was never finished.
Beneath a blanket of vines and jungle mist, the ruins of Copan whisper of a forgotten empire. Tucked into the fertile Copan Valley of western Honduras, near the Guatemalan border, this ancient city was once a shining beacon of Maya civilization. Between AD 250 and 950, Copan served as a bustling political, cultural, and astronomical capital during the height of the classic Maya period. Its plazas echoed with ceremony, its temples pierced the canopy, and its stone stelae told stories of kings and gods. Yet today the city lies silent, its greatness buried in time, a city carved from myth and maze. The story of Copan doesn't begin with kings but with corn. Long before its rise as a metropolis, the Copan Valley was home to small farming villages as early as 1000 BC. These early inhabitants cultivated maize, the sacred lifeblood of Maya identity. In Maya creation myths, humans were formed from maize dough, a symbol of how deeply intertwined agriculture and spirituality were. Over centuries, these humble villages evolved, coalescing into a regional power. Copan emerged as a hub along trade routes linking Central and South America, absorbing ideas, goods, and people, from fields to fire temples. But everything changed in 427 AD with the arrival of a stranger, a charismatic outsider named Kinichyax Kukmo, whose name means Radiant First Quetzalcoatl, founded Copan's royal dynasty. Archaeological and epigraphic evidence suggests he came from central Mexico or the Maya city of Tikal. His reign and that of his 15 successors transformed Copan into a seat of elite power, full of artistry and astronomical precision. His tomb, unearthed in the Hanal Temple, was packed with rare goods and warrior adornments, a blend of foreign and local styles. A dynasty born of feathers and fire. What remains of Copan is breathtaking. Majestic temples, intricately carved altars, and a hieroglyphic stairway with over 2,000 glyphs, the longest Maya inscription ever found, stand as testaments to its former glory. Burial chambers of elite rulers contrast sharply with more modest graves. Every stone tells a story, monuments etched with pride and prophecy. And yet, it all came crashing down. By 820 AD, monumental construction ceased, the plazas emptied, the dynasty vanished. Why? That's the mystery. One ancient city, one massive collapse. The jungle remembers what history forgot. History tells a story, but DNA tells the truth. In one of the most groundbreaking studies on ancient Central American genetics, researchers at Trinity College Dublin unlocked the genetic secrets buried beneath the ruins of Copan by analyzing DNA from 7 individuals who lived during the city's golden era. Scientists discovered not just who these people were, but where they came from, how they lived, and how their legacy still pulses through modern veins. Bones remember what words forget. At the center of the discovery was the Y chromosome marker Q1b, found in 2 male burials, one elite, CPM 13, one likely sacrificial, CPM 12. This genetic lineage is passed down from father to son, like an invisible surname. Today, Q1b is common among indigenous populations across the Americas, including the descendants of the ancient Maya. Despite sharing this marker, the 2 men were not close relatives, revealing a society where shared ancestry didn't necessarily mean shared status. Power doesn't always run in the blood. On the maternal side, the evidence was equally rich. The 5 other individuals in the study, 3 women and 2 men, carried mitochondrial DNA haplogroups A2 and C1. These genetic lineages, inherited solely from mothers, are widespread across the Americas and date back thousands of years. They represent maternal ties that stretch from ancient Copan to Alaska and all the way to modern Honduras, Guatemala, and Mexico. Mothers link the past to the present. But how far back does this thread go? According to genomic comparisons with ancient and modern samples across the Americas, Copan's genetic roots stretch back to the late Archaic period between 5,600 and 3,700 BC. That's over 7,000 years of continuous presence in Mesoamerica. Despite the dramatic rise and fall of their cities, the people themselves never vanished. Empires fall, bloodlines endure. The Maya didn't disappear, they adapted. Genetic data proves what many Maya descendants already knew in their hearts. They are the living legacy of a people whose story was never truly lost. From ancient temples to today's communities, the Maya spirit survives. Truth is carved not just in stone, but in our cells. The Maya world was never a closed circle, it was a web of connections. Ancient DNA has revealed a surprising twist in the story of Copan. About 6% of the genetic ancestry found in its classic period inhabitants came not from within the Maya heartland, but from far to the northwest. These foreign threads woven into the local population came from the highlands of Mexico, regions like Oaxaca, home to the Zapotec civilization, and beyond. Even empires need outsiders. This wasn't a random mix, it was strategic. The elite burials studied showed genetic signals linking them to highland Mexican populations. These weren't isolated travelers. They were part of an intricate network of political marriages, trade alliances, and cultural exchanges. DNA suggests that foreign individuals, perhaps nobles or warrior, were integrated into Copan's ruling class. They brought not just bloodlines but influence, shaping everything from governance to architecture. Allies in blood, not just in battle. Science backs this up beyond the genome. Isotopic analysis of tooth enamel, essentially a chemical record of where someone grew up, shows that several elite individuals at Copan weren't born there. They were migrants, raised in different regions before arriving in the valley. This supports the idea that Copan was both a destination and a nexus, a place where prestige and power flowed in from far-off cities. Teeth tell tales of faraway childhoods. Archaeology ties it all together. Evidence of connections between Copan and great cities like Teotihuacan and Tikal is carved into stone. Trade goods, stylistic influences in art, and shared religious motifs point to a cosmopolitan Maya elite, drawing ideas and people from across Mesoamerica. Stone speaks the language of alliance. The result was a cultural fusion that elevated Copan. Foreign ancestry didn't dilute the Maya identity, it enriched it. The blend of local tradition and imported innovation helped build a city of breathtaking complexity. Art, astronomy, architecture all blossomed from this union. When borders blur, brilliance follows. Copan wasn't just Maya, it was Maya and more. And that diversity, now visible in ancient DNA, may have been both its strength and, in time, its Achilles heel. What made Copan rise may have helped it fall. Beneath Copan's carved stones lies a silent explosion of people, not war. While towering temples captured the eye, the real story unfolded in the soil and DNA. Using a genetic technique called identical by descent (IBD) analysis, scientists have reconstructed Copan's population dynamics. Around AD 730, the city reached an effective population size of roughly 19,000, a sharp boom in human life, far larger than what the visible ruins might suggest. Growth leaves a genetic fingerprint. The engine of this growth was maize. As much a sacred symbol as a staple crop, maize allowed the Maya to feed increasingly dense populations. Agricultural innovations like terracing and irrigation turned the Copan Valley into a breadbasket. With each harvest, the city stretched further, rising in tandem with the very crop it mythologized. Maize built more than bodies, it built cities. But even golden cornfields have limits. Genetic and environmental data point to a turning point. Overfarming began to exhaust the valley's fertile soil. Forests were cleared, land was strained, and the ecological balance cracked under the weight of human ambition. Fields once lush with maize began to wither. Abundance carries its own curse. The collapse wasn't just a mystery, it was measured. Genetic evidence reveals a sudden demographic decline beginning around AD 750, decades before the political systems fell apart in 820. The population shrank fast, far too quickly for natural cycles. This timeline, based on DNA, aligns with archaeological signs of halted construction, fewer offerings, and abandoned buildings. Decline echoes louder when told by bone. This data bridges myth and science. For years, archaeologists suspected that Copan's downfall involved more than kings and droughts. Now, genetics confirms it. The collapse began from within, when the very success of Copan's farming and governance sowed the seeds of stress. DNA doesn't just reveal who, we now know when and why. Copan soared on a foundation of maize, people, and ambition. But like a fire burning too hot, it consumed its own fuel. The fall was not sudden, it was a slow unraveling, visible now in every strand of ancient DNA. A silent spiral, written in the code of the dead. collapse doesn't come like thunder, it creeps in like drought. Between the 9th and 11th centuries, the Maya heartland, including Copan, was struck by a series of prolonged and punishing droughts. Scientific data from lake sediments and cave minerals confirms this environmental crisis. Crops withered, reservoirs dried, the once reliable rhythm of the rains broke, and so did the balance that sustained the city. When the sky turned silent, cities began to fall. But water scarcity wasn't the only enemy. Political instability festered beneath the surface. As rival Maya city-states like Tikal and Calakmul vied for dominance, Copan's once mighty dynasty began to fracture. Alliances broke, local rulers struggled to hold sway. The royal court, once a symbol of divine order, became a stage for conflict and decay. Power cracks long before palaces do. The human cost is etched into the ground. Two burials, CPM 13 and CPM 12, tell a chilling story. CPM 13, a high-status male, was interred with lavish grave goods, jade, fine ceramics, and symbols of dynastic power. Just meters away, CPM 12 was buried in a pose typical of sacrificial victims, perhaps offered during a time of desperation. Both men carried the same Y chromosome marker, Q1b, yet their deaths reflected a society tearing at its seams. Same blood, different destinies. Inequality wasn't a symptom, it was a cause. As Copan's elite clung to privilege, the divide between rulers and the ruled widened. The splendor of the Acropolis contrasted with the exhausted fields beyond. Commoners bore the brunt of collapse, hunger, displacement, and perhaps rebellion. In a society where wealth meant survival, imbalance was more than unfair, it was fatal. When wealth pools, the people starve. Still, the story doesn't end in ruins. Ancient DNA shows that while Copan collapsed, the Maya did not. Their descendants walk the earth today, living across Guatemala, Mexico, and Honduras. The genome traces their endurance, migration, and rebirth. Civilizations fall, cultures endure, survival is written in every cell. The Maya weren't lost, they were tested, and through drought, division, and death, their legacy persists, not in stone alone but in blood. From collapse came continuity.